Usually, I'm quite excited to do these live streams, but not so too much. Actually, I was quite nervous if I wanted to do this live stream today or not, because you never know, right? You might get called out for anything. Some people might say this, that, and whatever. But uh, just to clarify before I start the stream, is that my intention in today's stream is only to talk about Canadian immigration, the process, and whatever is happening in the political circuit between India and Canada, whether it impacts Canadian immigration, how it impacts Canadian immigration, what you can expect, not expect, that kind of a thing. All right. So I'm not going to get into the nitty gritties of this whole fiasco that has been created. I'm not here to talk about any issues in terms of the specifics, why it has happened, who's responsible. That's not something which I can talk about, of course. I have zero understanding or zero knowledge of that. But at this point of time, what it's looking like more, it's like a spit match, right? I mean, one person does this, the other person does that. But that's what's happened with the political bigwigs, right? However, without going and ruffling too many feathers on that aspect of things, the update for today, I mean, most of you keeping in touch with what's happening, right? It's all over the social media. It's everywhere. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody reads a lot. Sometimes the social media, sometimes the mainstream media incites, creates these ridiculous headlines. I've seen one today, and trust me, it was really yeah, very ticklish. But they come up with these headlines. They come up with these very insightful articles. They write these things in a manner which can even wake the dead out of the grave and make that person very angry and upset. So before we continue, first thing what you should do is obviously be calm, be more diligent, be more sensible, and take what this information, how this information is coming to you with a pinch of salt, and understand that there are other people who have vested interests in trying to incite you, in trying to make you upset, in trying to make you angry, because they get more eyeballs and they're able to get more interaction. So as long as you can just see the facts for what they are, and then decide which way, whatever you want to sort of say, then obviously you can. But again, you're sensible individuals, you know better. For today's topic, for today's video, let's see what is happening. So first, what has happened is that the tensions happened. Canadian Prime Minister made some announcements in the Parliament. To that, the Indian government made some announcements, or not announcements, but they reacted to that. So after that, Canada expelled one of the diplomats, Indian diplomats. To that, the Indian government also expelled a Canadian diplomat. Then there is a lot of commotion that went on the social media. Some people have been making some threats. Some people have been making some videos saying this, and that, and all that. Now, so what has happened after that? Yesterday, I was actually going to make another video. I recorded the video. I was going to post it. I'm glad I didn't, because in that I was saying that nothing's going to happen in any Canadian immigration. And bang, how today morning you see the advisory or the notice from BLS in Canada, which just states that due to operational reasons, visa services for people who are looking to apply for visas to India, they have been suspended until further notice. Now, what that basically means is that if you are a Canadian, or if you are any other nationality in Canada, to apply for Indian visa at this point of time from the Indian embassy in Canada, that service has been suspended. So you will not be able to do that. This directly, actually, the people who are in Canada, who are the Canadians in Canada, the majority. We're talking about the big number. We're not talking about the small minority. We're talking the big numbers. Who are those Canadians in Canada who are looking to apply for the Indian visas? You will realize that most, if not all, of them are actually the Indian origin. Indians, Canadians with Indian origin, right? So they are the ones who wanted to probably go back for a business trip, want to go back to their families, want to visit somebody, or whatever that might be. Anyways, so they can at this point of time not apply for an Indian visa. The Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson, and I was watching that press conference this morning. That is how they give their briefing every week, in which the spokesperson very clearly said that if you are a Canadian, and even if you go to a third country and apply for an Indian visa, even that visa would not be processed. That has also been suspended. So it basically applies to all Canadians. Okay, you can't apply for an Indian visa at this point of time. Now, when the question comes for OCI, now that so the reason why the embassy has suspended the operations at this point of time, the reason given for that is that there is a threat that has been made. Not one, actually, there are several threats that have been made against targeting the Indian diplomats and the Indian embassies and their premises in Canada. And owing to the concerns, safety and security concern of those diplomats and their staff, the operations have been impacted, and therefore they will not be processing these visas. Now, as far as OCI is concerned, or for that matter, any kind of consular service in Canada is concerned, I feel, but they haven't said it, but I feel that will be impacted, because if the safety security concern is there and that is going to impact the visa application process, in my opinion, it would extend to all kinds of activities, right? That's what you would assume. But nothing has been said about the OCI cards itself. So if you're looking to apply for an OCI, then by all means go ahead and do it. I'm sure the BLS staff will accept the document. I'm not sure how the processing is going to be and how long that will take. So that is one aspect of things. Further, the Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson in India, when they were doing the press briefing, they also mentioned that they are looking to reduce the number of diplomats or diplomatic staff in Canada. The Indians are going to reduce their staff in Canada, and by that, they are also looking to have parity, and therefore they will be insisting that Canada also reduces its diplomatic staff in India. Now, it is also said that Canada has more diplomatic staff in India, and I'm assuming one of the big reasons for doing that would be Canada has a huge visa operations in India, right? One of the largest source countries for international students, for visitors, for permanent residents is India at this point of time, and has been for the last few years. So owing to that, the Indian visa, or rather the Canadian visa operations in India obviously forms a big chunk. A lot of it is the diplomatic staff. Now, when I'm saying diplomatic staff, could be the Canadian visa offices, could be the CBSA officers, and any other related staff that works in the Canadian visa operations. Now, if India is going to insist that Canada also reduces, and I was just reading an article, apparently that has already started happening. India is also now reducing. India is already reducing the diplomatic staff, of course, for safety security concerns. Now, Canada is also reducing its staff from the Indian embassies, from the Canadian embassies in India. It's just sort of a bit of a mouthful, and they will also be calling their staff back. So now, with the staff being reduced in the Indian visa offices, as you would expect, it will directly impact the visa processing that is happening in the Indian visa, not elsewhere, but in the Indian visa offices, the processing will impact. So which kind of applications? You're looking at applications, visit visa applications, you're looking at study permit applications, and to an extent, certain postgraduate work permit applications, certain spousal sponsorship applications, any of these applications which were being handled by the visa posts or the missions in India, they will probably go for a bit of a processing backlog or delay until this gets resolved. If your passport has already been sent for stamping, I'm assuming that they would be stamped and sent out. You may face a bit of delay there as well. But these are the ongoing issues at this point of time. Now, a lot of you are further been asking what is happening with the travel restrictions. Now, at the same point of time, the Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson who gave his press briefing this morning clarified very clearly, in very clear words, said that if you have a valid Indian visa and if you have a valid OCI, then there is no restriction. You can travel. At this point of time, there has been absolutely no travel restrictions whatsoever. So by all means, if you have valid documents to travel to India, you can. There is no problem. I also am not hearing of anything which is untoward with regards to safety security of people when they're traveling, or if anybody is being pointed out and they are being attacked in any manner. It's not happening in India. It's definitely not happening in Canada. Now, yes, there have been some issues outside the Indian embassies and consulate offices, and there has been some protests, etc. But that is something, that I'm sure the responsible agencies will look into. In addition to that, there are other people who are asking what's going to happen to their processing of the applications in Canada. Well, if the processing is happening inside Canada, it is not going to have any impact because of this. Because you are an Indian, because of that, would that be an impact? In my opinion, no. Why? Because the Charter of Rights and Freedom, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom, sure that there is no bias against any nationality for any reason as specified by this. So I don't expect, I don't anticipate, I don't foresee any kind of bias towards Indians because of this political tension at this point of time when the processing is done. So just because you're an Indian, your application may not, I mean, it's not going to get refused because just because you are an Indian. Now, there might be other circumstances there that might get your application refused, but just because you're an Indian, that doesn't get your application refused. That's one thing. In addition to that, where are the other areas which can create a bit of an outlook? Now, let me share something. Just let's go into the historical trends, right? What has happened in the past? Before, Canada has had frayed relationship with Saudi Arabia a couple of years back, with China also a few years back. And in these circumstances, something similar happened. There was a political spat. After that, the diplomats were expelled from each other's countries. And the trade suffered. The trade contracts, the trade negotiations fell apart. The trade was held back, and all of that happened. And there is always an impact on the people who travel. Right? There is a lot of advisories because India, for example, has issued a very, very strong advisory to all Indian nationals who are currently in Canada. Making them aware of safety, security threats, political what was that word? Condone political. I forget that one. And then hate crime, etc. So I've heard of a lot. I mean, I've seen that advisory, and obviously, I'm sure most of you have. If you haven't, then please do head over to the Indian in Canada website or Twitter account, and you can see the advisory there as well. But usually what happens in such situations, and I was talking to you about to Saudi Arabia to start with. Saudi Arabia, what they did is they also called their students, international students who were studying in Canada, back to their country. Canada did not expel them. It was Saudi Arabia who insisted that the students return back. When the situation was tense with China, again, Canada did not expel any Chinese citizens. Though what we did see was that the number of Chinese applications over a period of time for international students dropped. And I will share with you this screen that I have here. Now, this is Stephen Murrens, who is a very well-known Canadian immigration lawyer and very active on Twitter. And this is what he posted a couple of days back. He said, since relations between Canada and China began deteriorating, the number of study permit holders in Canada from China has decreased because of those frayed tension. It is unclear what the implications will be of what seems to be a sharp decrease in relation between India and China. And then there is that graph that shows you how China's application, once the relationship frayed, they basically plummeted, right? From the peak in 2018, 2019, they have just absolutely dropped between 2021 and 2022. Okay. Indian, on the other hand, if you can see the graph, the line in green, it has just been skyrocketing. Now, will these tensions make a difference? Now, that is something which obviously we'll have to wait and watch. But how can these frayed relationships create a problem? This is how it can happen. The banks can be given instructions to refuse education loans for students who are destined to Canada or delay their loans. This can happen on the back end. India can choose to do that. If the education loans are refused, obviously those international students will not be able to come to Canada. With delayed with the delayed diplomatic point of time, if the number of staff in India continue to be low, then again with the backlogs, you might see a lot of students getting frustrated. They might choose to go to other countries. Probably that's another way to look at it. But at this point of time, these are a couple of things that you should be aware of, that you can look at and know that this is what's happening. Apart from that, as far as Canada is concerned, inside Canada is concerned, hey, I'm an Indian. And I'll be going for the Ganpati Puja this evening. I know there's a big one happening in Brampton. I haven't heard of any untoward incident against Hindus, against Indians at this point of time. Yes, occasionally you will see ridiculous graffitis on some temples. I do not know why people do that and why do they create those situations, but those do happen. Those mischief makers are everywhere. But apart from that, at least I haven't heard of anything. My family is here, my relatives are here, my friends are here. There's so many people over here. I haven't heard from anybody who says that there is any kind of tension as such, which is happening in Canada. All right. So if you're traveling to Canada from India, I do not expect you to face any kind of problem at all. There is no issues. There is nothing at this point of time. The airports are clear. You have a valid visa to come to Canada, ahlan wa sahlan, please travel, there is no problem. If you're going back to India, again, there is also no problem. You can absolutely travel. There are no visa restrictions. There is absolutely nothing happening there. Uh, Apart from that, if news channels, if social media accounts are creating this or are getting into this fear mongering, please do not buy into that. This is something which people always do. A lot of people enjoy that. I'm telling you, I'm an Indian. Most of the staff who are working with us are Indians. As I said, I interact with so many people across Canada in different provinces as well. I haven't heard, seen of anything that you can call as something you to be scared of. So if you are a person who has children, who has family, who has relatives, who has friends in Canada, please do not have or do not pay heed to these kind of news articles. There is nothing happening here which can seem like a savior threat to Indians in any manner, or Hindus, or whatever you might want to call that. Nothing. Yes, there are some people who are making those videos claiming certain threats, etc. Well, I do not know what to say for that. I'm sure there is appropriate people, agencies, security agencies who will be taking a look at that and doing what needs to be done. Apart from that, this is Canada. It's supposed to be kind. It's supposed to be land of thank yous and sorries and smiles. It's unfortunate what is happening right now, but I'm sure people who are in the know, people who are in the power, they know how to deal with these things better. But one thing I've learned, if I was to be a political aspirant, if I was looking to sort of do anything to do with politics, I'm taking a lot of notes as to things that you should do, things you should not do, because hey, this is the perfect stage to know what and how things can really backfire. That's basically a short video that I wanted to make and sort of make you aware of what's happening, what's not happening, what you should be aware of, what you shouldn't be aware of, or what you should be looking forward to. But this is basically what's happening as far as Canadian immigration processes are concerned. The draws are concerned, express entry draws are concerned, the PNP draws are concerned. Nothing has stopped them. Nothing is stopping them. There is no impact. The processing of visa applications inside Canada, it won't stop, won't get hampered. Yes, the processes in the Indian visa offices is expected that they might be looking at some delays because of whatever is happening in the embassies there. Apart from that, I hope you stay safe, you say take care, and I hope to see you around soon. Yeah, probably for the Saturday's weekly roundup when we will have more to talk about what's happening. Thank you so much, and I'll see you then.